You're listening to On Mission with Dr. Matt Davis, a podcast designed to explore the personal mission of everyday leaders. Hear from men and women who are making a difference in their corner of the world and discover what keeps them on mission. So welcome to On Mission. The live stream podcast today is a side mission, the first of our side mission strategy with just Jonathan and I today. No outside guest to interview, but we've got some interesting conversation in store for you, and looking forward to being able to goof off a little bit today. We don't have to be on our best behavior. There's no guest. So I'm repping the Old Main Cafe today with the mug.
But don't be deceived. He doesn't drink coffee.
No, it's Mountain Dew. But you know, I was thinking about it. Established in 2007, Old Main Cafe is the longest continuously in existence coffee shop on the campus of Maranatha Baptist University.
He doesn't count any dorm rooms.
Well, they're not continuously in existence. They're not currently in existence. And so
I'm repping
yeah.
what will be. Let's see, this is a blank copy, right? This is a
Concept preview.
concept preview from our friends over at Easy Promotion in
Okay.
Arizona. This is going to be the mug that we use, or that we give out to all of our attendees at the Leader to Leader conference coming up.
Leader to leader. Yeah, when is it? Tell me about that.
It's March 9th and 10th here on campus. Registration closes on the 3rd. And we're really excited about having the 4 keynote speakers, Audrey Gronowig, Sam Brock, Dr. Rob McKenna, John McHugh. They're going to be amazing. The content, I've already seen the preview for some of their PowerPoints. You're not going to want to miss those 4 keynotes. But then in between the keynotes, there's workshops. There are
Lots of great workshops.
Lots of great workshops from speakers from all over the country. And I had the connection just a couple minutes before I came down. We have a father and son coming.
Yeah.
Right, because Tim Morgan
Right.
is the father of Adam
CEO
Morgan.
of Palmetto Fortis. They do marketing.
Right.
And
Right.
tremendous organization.
Right, great wisdom to impart.
Well, not only that, they operate on Christian business principles. And that's
Exactly.
something that we've talked about a lot here on
Right.
On Mission podcast. And then his son Adam is the president of Majesty Music, which everybody knows.
Right.
And he's the son-in-law of Patch the Pirate, Ron Hamilton.
Right,
So
claim to
that's
fame.
pretty awesome. Yeah. And
Yeah.
he's also, just happens as a side gig, to be a state representative in the state of South Carolina. That's pretty awesome.
Right, his side mission.
Yeah. But I like the 2 workshop titles together. Tim,
Yes.
the father, is doing Preparing Emerging Leaders, and Adam's session is Help, I've Emerged as a Leader.
Right, which I figure, depending on who you are, I'm interesting to see if Tim's is full of of the young guys or the old guys.
I don't know.
But then I know that everyone's going to want to go to Adam's.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, all the students.
Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
all of our business students will be there. Good turnout so far in the registrations, but that is available. There are hotels in the area that you can get involved with. So go to the website, mbu.edu/leader to leader.
Right.
Get
/leader
you
to
there.
leader. You can also find it pretty easily from the homepage.
Yep. Big splash screen there.
And we are using a conference app this year. Actually, this is the first annual.
I think you're about as excited about the app as you are the conference.
Believe me, I am. It is
pretty cool.
amazing. It's amazing, and you'll be able to find things in live time, to be able to connect with people. You've been to conferences. You know how hard it is to network and
All right, let's do it. Let's give a shout out to there's a leaderboard, and there's a lot of things going on.
Oh, yeah.
I happen to believe that I know probably who is on the leaderboard here.
Well,
and his
and
name
they
is
keep
Adam, but it's not Adam Morgan. I think
Adam
Burton is
Yeah,
killing it.
he is.
Somehow he has accomplished
he was the first one in
3,800 points.
Yeah, I know.
How do you get points? I don't know how to get
interactions.
Points.
So he was the first one in there.
Okay.
And then you get points for connecting with other people, for posting questions, answering questions.
Yeah.
And
but Pam Fiocchi's got the silver so far, and Brian
she's
Stilley
getting there.
has the bronze. So.
Kevin's making a run.
Kevin Montney.
He's making a run.
He is a rising star in 5th place.
Yeah.
So, somehow I'm in 8th place. I do not know how this is possible, since that's not even my profile, so I have a totally different profile.
Yeah, that's because
somehow I've been replaced.
You've been replaced. You should
replaced
talk
me?
to your people.
All right. Well, I filled out my profile, but
Yeah.
it's not in there.
We'll make sure that the right people
I
are
have
in
work
there.
to do. What have I been doing in my life?
I
need
don't
to
know.
be updating my app. Hey, I'm excited about this one. Pastor Matt Morrell from Fourth Baptist
Absolutely.
in Plymouth. First among equals, plurality without parity. I'm really curious to see what he'll come up with there. Of course, our own Jeff Pill, creating culture steps to enable the potential for high performance. And, well, I mean, how could I not mention my wife, Dana Davis, is in the lineup. Here today, gone tomorrow, planning for employee turnover.
And, you know, she and I have talked about this when she's had to go through this herself as a leader in her office and being a part of that office before she was the leader in the office and seeing employee turnover. And there are things you can do to make those transitions easier.
Well, everybody's in a crunch right now with the labor market, so that's a huge one. So, yeah, leader to leader coming up, and you get cool swag. And I'm looking forward to the design. You previewed it for me today, and it's going to look pretty awesome.
It is.
So what do we want to do today? This is a side mission. We don't have a guest scheduled today. It's kind of a snow day. The schools are mostly canceled in town, and they sort of made a late decision about that.
It was a late call.
7:45 this morning, they decided to call school off in the public school district. So the academy was like, nope, you're on the way. You're coming. You know, we're doing school.
Yeah, I saw that.
Man up, you kids.
I saw that text.
So we're all in school today, but no guest here on campus. So I came across a Twitter feed.
Well, let's talk about what side mission is first.
Oh, okay. Side mission.
Yeah, all right. So side missions. And we've talked about this for, obviously, we are just past the 1 year mark.
Really?
Of the show. We're just past it. And we weren't airing them, quite yet, but we have been working on it for such a long time. But we've been talking about all these conversations that don't fit nice and neat into our main format of asking people what their mission is.
Right.
And so you decided, and I agreed, that we should have a format in between.
You agreed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. In between to talk about things that are important, but maybe don't have a person that we can talk to them about.
Yes. Okay. So we just stuff we want to talk about.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And have fun with it a little bit. And so, the first one here then is you'll probably come up with a blooper reel one at some point too.
Oh,
those are we'll call that off mission.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're all going to be me.
Well, not anymore. So the Twitter feed that I found was from a guy named Neil Dingra. I don't know who he is. He is a guy who makes money on the internet, social media. Imagine that. And there are a lot of people making careers on the social media these days, some good ways, some bad ways.
He has more dozens of followers than we do.
He has lots of followers, I guess. He's got a blue check mark, so that means he pays at least $8
Right.
He only has 9,600 followers, to be honest with you.
That's why
not
I said
that
all
many.
dozens.
Yeah. But he said he makes $4 million a year on social media, mostly on Instagram.
Which is more than I make.
I don't know what he does to make all that money. But anyway, he's got this Twitter feed, and I don't agree with all these.
No. Some of them are on the right trajectory, I think.
But he says these are the 8 biggest lies that we're told about money.
Right.
So I thought, okay, here's somebody's opinion. Let's read through them and
talk about
see what we think.
Right.
All right. I have a little different take on things than this guy, Neil Dingra.
And it's important because money is a conversation that we have a lot around here because people are trying to pay for college.
We have a lot of money, or we have a lot of conversation?
No, we have a lot of conversation.
Oh, okay, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, we have a lot of conversation about money around here and the values that we as Christians have.
Well, we have an approach of stewardship,
right,
versus ownership,
right.
And I think that's a very important distinction. And this guy, I don't believe, is a Christian coming at it from that perspective. So let's talk about how a secular person looks at money and contrast that with how we might look at this from a stewardship standpoint.
All right, so line number 1.
Yeah.
Line number 1, save your money to get rich.
Okay. So he's saying that's a lie.
That's a lie.
Don't save your money. Now, first you have to deconstruct the statement, right? Like,
right.
Saving your money is a lie? Well, do we save money to get rich?
No.
I don't think so. Of course, the Bible says treasure and oil are in the house of the wise. Might call that wealth.
Might call it wealth.
How do you end up with treasure and oil in your house? Well, number 1, you don't spend it. I mean, we have to look at what does it mean to save. It means you don't spend it, right? You don't waste it anyway. And so saving, I think I'm reading ahead in what he's actually saying.
Right.
I think he means don't hide it under a mattress.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And I think in the same, section here, he's putting an emphasis on making more money.
Yeah. He says saving it, putting it under the mattress is a scarcity mindset.
Right.
He said get 50 millionaires together and ask them how they got rich, and not one of them will say by saving money. Okay. To get rich, he says, make more money. That is, work, business, work hard, industry, side hustles, get a side job. And he said, invest a percentage of it in assets that'll appreciate in value over time. Now, some people might call investing a percentage of your assets saving.
Right.
Right? I mean, we put it in a mutual fund or an investment. Right. We're investing in an appreciable asset. So I think it's a nuanced point, and I guess I understand his point, is that you're never going to just work a 40-hour-a-week job and climb the ladder, and I think he talks about that later.
Yeah, we get that later.
Yeah, but and just save, put money away, and end up rich or wealthy, right? And now, for the believer, is there some truth to this? Is there some falseness to this? Well, yeah, there's truth to it, because think about the parable of the talents. The wealthy owner gives some of his resource to some of his servants and says, I'm heading out. Doesn't give them much instruction.
Do something with it.
Yeah, which one is rewarded and which one's punished?
The one that's punished is the one who buried it.
Yeah, the saver.
The saver, right.
And even his excuses, well, I knew you were a harsh guy, and I knew that you were very
business-minded
with your money and didn't want to lose it. Careful. And so I saved it for you. And the other guys invested it and made more with it, and he said, well done. So I think there's some biblical principles there. But on the other hand, we are stewards, and so we need to be careful with the kinds of investments that we do. We don't go for get rich quick schemes and those kinds of things, just in the sense of trying to be wealthy. And let's just be honest. Is getting wealthy our biggest priority in life?
No,
it can't be.
And I think if you're also making a contrast between saving and just spending willy-nilly, it's also not just go out and spend however you want, and make more so that you can spend more. That's not the point either. It's to use the assets that you have and the resources that you have.
And Neil's definitely not saying that. Just go out and spend it. He's saying be careful and invest it in appreciable assets.
Right.
All right.
Line number 2.
Yeah.
Line number 2, debt is bad.
Debt is bad. Well, there's certainly such a thing as bad debt.
Well, absolutely. And there's uncontrollable debt.
What would you put in the category of bad debt?
Bad debt, things, well, for sure, if it's crippling, if you can't manage it and you can't use it, or if you're not using it to get ahead, there's a difference between going into debt because you need to fix something. That's not bad debt. That's good debt. But going into debt for something that you don't need.
Dave Ramsey might disagree with you. So I would say it a little more plainly. Bad debt is like credit card debt.
Oh, sure.
Unsecured, high interest debt is bad debt.
Sure.
Okay. So when you put something on a credit card, you are borrowing money. Most people don't even think of it, don't even realize that. You are borrowing money at an incredibly, criminal rate of interest.
Right.
I don't mean that literally. All right, credit card companies, calm down. But you're talking about over 20% probably APR on that. Plus, then people who spend on credit cards tend to miss payments, and there are huge fees associated with that, hidden fees. If they make minimum payments, they're rolling it over. It's called revolving credit. And then you've even get to the point where you have tens of thousands of dollars on credit cards, and you can't make the minimum payments. And so then you start getting those solicitations in the mail for 6 months interest-free. You start rolling over onto another credit card and another one. And come to find out, now your credit is destroyed, and you actually can't get into good debt because you've gotten into so much bad debt.
Right.
And so the better strategy to avoid the credit card being the safety net is to have a savings. So, it kind of goes against line number 1.
Right.
Because the savings isn't there to make us wealthy. The savings is there as a reserve to prevent us from having to go into bad debt.
That's the idea of having, 3 to 6 months worth of expenses saved away.
Right.
So that if something happens, you can dip into that instead of an astronomical
You got to have
percentage.
a good reserve. So really priority number 1 when you get out and start working and establishing yourself in a career is get a savings. Get a savings account, put it away in a safe thing, whether it's a mutual fund or a CD. You're going to get like 1% in a good scenario.
Right.
But that's savings, and then forget about it. Just leave it alone.
It's just not there.
Yeah, forget about it. Don't use it to buy furniture. Don't use it to get a decent car. That savings. Now, you have additional savings for those things, and buy them when you can afford them, not when you can get into credit card type debt. So not all debt is bad. His good debt is what he called secured debt, a debt tied to an asset. It goes up in value. That's good debt. Now, I would say caveat, if you get a decent interest rate.
Sure.
And right now, that's kind of changing.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people are sub 2% on their home loans now. That's a great debt.
It's amazing.
But, I don't know what the current home loans are going for, but it's in the 5s and 6s, I think.
Right.
And that is a different kind of debt. So you got to be very careful about that. So we could spend a lot of time on that one, but I think there's good debt, but there's also bad debt.
Right.
And you get into bad debt by making bad decisions.
So he steps up a little bit here. Line number 3, follow the traditional plan. And he defines the traditional plan as get a degree, get a job, climb the corporate ladder, save money, and then retire.
And he says that's dumb.
He says that's dumb.
Okay. Well, he's missing one thing on the traditional plan.
Okay.
Get married.
Get married.
And when you look at the income and wealth divide in our country, married people are much more financially stable, middle class achievers, breaking into the middle class from starting lower in that what they call social mobility. So I got the U.S. News and World Report this week that has the college rankings. And I looked through, you look for Maranatha on all the different pages and stuff. And number one, their methodologies are trash. Okay.
And everyone agrees on that. It's not just Maranatha.
Ask the Ivy League schools, right, who have completely opted out of it and said, we're not doing this. And I love it. Like Harvard is like, the U.S. News and World Report is judging us like we're Harvard, okay? So I like the attitude there. I think we're going to have that same, you're judging us, we're Maranatha. I mean, come on. Let's just say we operate on a different metric.
Right.
And one of their metrics is called social mobility. And Maranatha was number 7, I believe it was, on the list of universities providing social mobility as here in the Midwest region, which has about 1,000 universities in it. And I'm raising my eyebrow about that. Like, what? And what they're saying is it's the income levels of the families of students coming in versus their earning potential coming out.
On the back end.
Social mobility, moving from a lower class system into a middle class system, or middle to upper, higher. Right? Yeah. And so that social mobility is something that they track economically. And one of the number one things is family, right? Having a stable home. That doesn't necessarily mean 2 incomes either, by the way.
No, right. I think the stable home is the thing that is no one wants to talk about it, is the part. So
not
even
in the secular world,
right. So even if it's 1 or 2 incomes, the fact that it's stable makes a big difference. Because if you can just flip flop in and out of jobs and go from one place to the next, and you don't have any skin in the game.
Yep. But just life itself is complicated and time-consuming.
Right.
And so to have a partner makes a big difference. People say, well, I'm waiting until I can afford to get married. And they're putting marriage off until the late 20s, early 30s. You're number one, you're wasting the best childbearing years of your life as your family, and so you're going to end up with a much smaller family, if at all. You're also missing out on the stability of those years and the earning potential that grows during that time. And so I think he kind of forgot that in the traditional plan. He says, get a degree, get a job, climb the corporate ladder, save money, retire is dumb. Okay, well, I would say he's right, but for the wrong reason.
Absolutely. So the things that I was thinking about with this one is that, first of all, you can get a job while you're getting your degree. You can make money while you're in college. I did that, and I think I learned better. I say it that way. I learned more in college because I was working jobs.
There are so many jobs now that you don't have to go and clock in for either.
Absolutely, and they're flexible. You don't have to be geographically located in the same spot. We have students on our campus that are editing and doing accounting. for places that aren't even close to us.
But even the gig economy, where you can just take your spare time, you don't have to have a set schedule, but you say, okay, I've got a couple hours. My son does DoorDash and delivers, and he'll be like, this is too easy. And his phone will chime out and say, hey, we got a lot of orders going right now. Are you available? And he's like, yeah, I am. And he'll disappear for like 20 minutes, come back and say, I made $30.
Yeah.
Delivering Subway to a guy 1 block away from the restaurant.
If you're okay with doing anything, you can make a lot of money as a young person.
It's crazy.
But you have to be okay with doing
Well, you got to
anything.
have support. You got to have a vehicle. You got to have internet. You got to have the technology. You got to be training. You got to be learning and curious and educating yourself on these kinds of things, and find something that sparks a little passion in your creativity, so that you'll have an initiative.
Right. So the thing that I agree with him on this lie is that you don't have to follow the order here. And then he missed a huge part with the traditional plan of marriage.
Well, another reason why I think that this is a lie that I don't think is his point is that life isn't about that. Life isn't about getting a degree so you can get a job, so you can climb the corporate ladder, so you can get
retire.
wealth, so you can retire and do nothing.
Yeah.
Right? That's not what life is all about. That's not going to bring you fulfillment. That describes for me a miserable dude.
Right. A person who gets to the end, has a lot, knows no one,
and looks back and says, what was that?
Yeah.
What was
now
that
what
for?
am I supposed to do?
Yeah. So it's not it's about productivity, it's about ministry, it's about fulfilling God's calling in your life, about submitting your life to serving him and serving others. I'm not getting that vibe from this description.
No, sometimes we've talked about, I know in between shows or whatever, what the climb the ladder looks like for a Christian, and a better phrase would be take more opportunities, opportunities for ministry, opportunities for impact, opportunities for influence, and sometimes those look like climbing the ladder.
But let's be honest, isn't there a sense that we all have a desire to do more and to find success and promotion? And I mean, do you want to be doing the same thing today that you did 20 years ago?
No.
You know,
well,
all right, not
I
you,
was in
but
high school. I wasn't.
Well, then you definitely don't.
Yeah, no, I don't want to do that. I was,
But from a career standpoint, we want to feel like we're going somewhere, right?
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Well, that's the point, is that sometimes a Christian taking life on the way that God intended looks like someone who just wants to climb the ladder.
Well, they're industrious. They're working hard. They care. They want to do a good job.
And
those things are rewarded.
They have pride in their craft.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're trying to improve their skills, and they're
right.
Yeah. So I think there are some similarities that you could observe, but maybe the motivations are different, and maybe we actually get our head up every once in a while off of ourselves and look around at other people and see how we can be a blessing to them.
Right.
That's a big key. And by the way, that's what you're looking for in an employee too.
Absolutely. Right.
All right.
So do you want to skip number 4, or do you want to come back to it? All right. Number 5, money is your only wealth. That's a lie. Financial wealth is only 25% of the equation. There's time wealth, there's physical wealth, and there's social wealth.
Give each its due value and build a more fulfilling life. Well, I'm with him on this one.
Yeah.
Although I wouldn't necessarily, his categories are very godless and secular.
Yeah.
All right. But
there's family wealth. There's.
He does. I mean.
Yeah.
You can have a lot of money and a lot of time on your hands and be in perfect health and be pretty miserable.
Yeah.
And you can pursue social status.
Right. His category of social wealth is probably deceiving, because he's taking that from the wrong spot. I know a lot of people take it, you got to have social wealth in order to have financial wealth.
Well, he's an Instagram star. Do you think maybe he's talking and defining that a little differently?
Right. He's made his money on those connections, but what are those connections really?
Well, do you think that there are a lot of young people today that judge their social standing and their social value based on the number of followers, likes,
yeah, they
and
judge
comments?
Themselves on those things.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't grow up with that, so I don't know what that does to you psychologically. Like, if I put a post out there, I usually forget to go back and look if anybody liked it. I don't sit there refreshing, waiting to see my adoring fans, click in.
It's amazing.
Good thing, because it doesn't happen, but
it's amazing what my posts are like now versus when I first got started. You get the 10-year reminders on Facebook every once in a while.
Yeah.
And
I got 8 likes on that, and then I reposted and I get 150.
Right. Yeah. So the whole construction is different. And I look at so I had lack of capitalization and punctuation, and I still got, half of my classmates from high school to interact with.
You post things without capitalization?
No, I did when I was in high school. And I look back at those.
No,
it's okay.
Side mission B. All right.
B.
Do you put punctuation and capitalization in your text messages?
In my text messages, it 100% depends on who I'm texting.
With me, I think you probably
absolutely do. Because you're an Xer, you value capitalization, and you're my boss.
I've been told that it comes across as aggressive and hostile to use punctuation.
It can.
Tweets or in
it can.
Text messages.
It also depends on the content, but I evidently I break the norm on this one because I use capitalization and punctuation with my wife.
Yes,
most people don't.
Because you're not a sociopath.
Well, no, because she's an English teacher.
Oh well, that too. Okay. Well,
I don't have an option.
I got a text message one time from a student at about 5 minutes to midnight, which is what we call Maranatha midnight, 11:55, because the LMS.
Right, where everything goes dark.
Right. Everything's due at 11:55. And so I got a text message like 11:54, and it said, "Hey, man."
Oh,
and,
bad lead off.
Yeah, I accidentally submitted my quiz. Could you reopen it for me or whatever? And I happened
You were
to,
still awake at 11:55?
Well, I happened to get the message, and I'm like, "Hey, man.
Hey,
what,
man.
What in the world is this?" You know? And I didn't have a good response to that.
I can
maybe
imagine.
I should have been more in the spirit and been understanding about my
I'm sure you've
students,
learned from this situation.
Yeah, but don't be texting people, "Hey, man," you know, unless you're actually just buddies. All right, so number 5, money is your only wealth. Financial wealth is important. You need money. It's a way society works. But there is time wealth. What is time wealth? Freedom,
okay.
He says.
I think what he's talking about is the freedom to do the important things. If you're stuck in the wrong rhythm of life, you're not going to be able to work on the priorities. Whether that is your family, whether that's for us, it's church life, it's our relationships outside of church and outside of work. There is a time margin for people who have some money.
That's the word I was thinking about, margin. That you actually have something to offer because your life is in order.
Right.
You ever know somebody who's like a complete mess, right? Like they just literally.
I look in the mirror at someone.
Well, we're all kind of that way, but I mean, just constantly they're a ball of commotion.
Yeah, sure.
And emotion.
Chaos.
And just like, whoa, like that kid on the Peanuts comic strip that just had Pigpen. Just constant.
Yeah.
But their life is
a cloud
like that
goes
emotionally
with it.
and just constantly in a tizzy. You think that person notices when other people have needs? You know, is that person real empathetic,
right,
and have a lot to offer anybody else? I mean, people are on eggshells around a guy like that.
Because it sets them off, what it is that their life is on such a delicate balance of being it not just in a chaos perspective, but in a crisis perspective.
Right.
And you want to be trending towards order.
But if you haven't, you know what it takes to get your life organized like that? It takes like self-discipline.
Well, and it takes a few years of grinding out.
Well, you gotta put the things in place. But even if you don't have any money, you can have time to offer other people.
Absolutely.
And physical wealth, your health. I mean, this is an area that, you know, my generation perhaps doesn't do so great with. I think starting with millennials and currently Gen Z are doing a lot better at taking care of their physical health. But that also tends with social media to get out of balance.
Right. Well, and I
it's
think
all about my looks and my bodily physique.
Exactly, because if you're talking about your physical well-being being your capacity to perform your responsibilities, that's one thing. But if you're talking about your physical well-being being the way that I want to be perceived by others because of my figure or because of my face or whatever it is, that's not looking at your physical well-being. That's actually pride.
What if God sees fit to take that away from you?
Right. Then where's your identity going to be?
Yeah.
Your identity's found in the wrong spot.
You say, well, I'm not wealthy anymore because I'm disabled in some way, or I'm going through this health challenge. I mean, that happens. And I think the one that's missing here is spiritual wealth.
Absolutely.
And that's when you need spiritual wealth, is when you're missing
one of the
physical
others.
or time or money. So interesting. All right. Well, okay.
Number 6.
Yes.
Diversifying gets you rich. Diversifying gets you rich. So I think his point.
Define diversifying.
Yeah. His idea behind diversifying is having your money in multiple places, and in multiple formats too. So you have assets. We talked about debt. If you have a form of debt that gives you something on the back end, like a house, okay, there's some equity there. That's not just, I don't have all that money that would be that equity. It's not sitting in a bank somewhere, but it is offsetting the costs on the other end.
Yeah. So I think this is a lie. I think he's right, but I'm not sure. I agree with it the way he's saying it. So he's saying diversify gets you rich, and then he says diversifying is a way to preserve wealth.
Right, as opposed to getting it.
I don't think anybody ever thought it. That's why I think it's a lie. Like,
Sure.
I've never heard anyone say that.
Well,
diversifying is a risk management strategy.
I think he could be attacking the people who are on the get rich quick things, where if you have a little bit of money and you see an opportunity, but you're not maximizing your current production, your current wealth, you shouldn't be jumping into a different channel.
Yeah.
Right. So with these, think about Bitcoin and other concepts where
let's check on my Bitcoin investments, shall we?
Well, and think about the people who jumped in on the early side of that, who maybe didn't have the margin of wealth to get in on something that was brand new like that. Ooh, I see the trajectory
there. That's just
there.
today. Don't
okay.
Calm down. This is what it looks like overall.
Well, that's not much better, man.
So I put some discretionary money.
Okay.
All right,
there. See,
my motorcycle fund money. Okay, let's just put it that way. Do you have a motorcycle fund?
No, but I should. That would be a great side
That's
mission.
how you buy golf clubs and guns. And
is having a motorcycle fund?
Well, that's what you call it. And then that's also how you get like a anniversary ring for you. All right, I'm going to tell women,
okay.
All the women tune out right now. Okay, mute the live stream. Isaiah, can you mute the live stream just for the women?
Yeah. This is the post Valentine's thing.
Okay, men. Are you still here? Okay, just the men. You're going to need some off-the-books side money.
Right, if you want to do surprises.
Yes, because the surprise is the most valuable thing in the marriage, okay? The surprise is the whole thing. Because, I have to go back. I got a whole thing
I'm
going to
cut that clip just right there, and I'm going to post
No, don't do that. There's context here, Jonathan. You can't do that to me. All right, so don't take what I just said and get upset. Just listen, hear me out, all right? Women marry boys, men, with the wrong thought, but the thought universally that they're going to fix them. Okay, so they buy them in the hopes that they're going to improve. They buy into this.
So let's clarify: the women marry the guy in hopes that the woman will be able to fix the guy.
Of course, they're taking on a project.
Right.
Okay. Now, men, we could just acknowledge, men marry women hoping they will never change. All right, so it's the exact opposite. Thinking that they're wonderful and perfect the way that they are, and hoping that will never change. And I got a bad news for both of you. You're both wrong.
We're both wrong.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the truth is, marriage changes us right away in very profound ways, and in ways we cannot possibly predict.
Yeah.
So it's much more important that we be committed, and love through commitment than love through idealization of the current status or of the prospect of changing and fixing.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So that out of the way. There's many books on this that I didn't write. Okay. So don't
at you.
Don't get on my case. All right. But women think that in the dating process they have merely observed the tip of the iceberg of this young man's
potential,
full
capacity,
wonderfulness and character, and that she's going to spend the rest of her life discovering the 90% that's still yet below the surface.
Sure.
And that he has merely revealed just the 10% tip of the iceberg of all of that wonderfulness through the dating process, and that the marriage is going to be incredible of just discovery. Well, the problem is we're more like an ice cube than an iceberg, all right? And that's pretty much all there is. In fact, it might even be more than there is, because we are putting our best foot forward in the dating process. And although I should say we shouldn't let down, once we're married, there's a comfort level that sets in, okay? So we have to be careful about that. So the point I'm trying to make is you can't disappoint your wife by not trying. Okay, you have to keep the spark alive.
Yeah,
and that means certain responsibilities along the way, like Valentine's Day, which you personally are not going to care that much about, but that your wife will, and so you need to go all out. There's some prerequisites.
Tell our followers the story of when you did the bathroom.
Oh,
because that's a good
how
one.
do you think I did the bathroom?
Exactly. So
off the books money.
Exactly.
All right, you need off the books money. So I like to surprise my wife, and okay. Let me clarify one more thing. A surprise is at its basis a lie.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
I mean, let's be honest. It's a good lie. It's a well-motivated lie, but
it's
there's some
miscommunication.
deception involved in order to pull off a surprise, right? I mean, when you popped the question, did you tell her you were going to pop the question? No, you did everything you did to try and throw her off the trail, right? So I did that too, by the way. My wife thought that I kind of planted seeds for a year ahead of time before proposing, and she was mad at me because she thought I wasn't saving money.
Oh.
And I was, dropping how poor I was, and I spending every dollar I made, and I was really saving up, and I had a pretty good nest egg. And I got her a decent engagement ring because I had always said I was too proud. I would not get engaged if I couldn't afford and didn't have an engagement ring. And she's sitting here going, the clock is ticking here, buddy. Let's go. And so she told me later, I was getting pretty frustrated with you. And I had her right where I wanted her. Okay, so by the time I got engaged, she was shocked that I had a ring and that I had actually saved the money, because she said, don't you dare put that engagement ring on a credit card. Your prospective wife will not be impressed if you turn the corner, all of a sudden debt into the marriage from buying an engagement ring. Not good, not a good idea. All right, so go back. So for the anniversary we had this last year, which I don't remember the number, it's got to be at least 10 years. 20 plus years.
That's safe.
Yeah.
Safe.
Actually,
in the ballpark.
Tim just turned 21, so it has to be at least 23 years. All right. I think 24 is what we're coming up on. All right, so it wasn't one of the big anniversaries,
it was an
like the 10 or the 5. So that's another key, right?
Yes.
Like they're expecting something at 50. All right, so you gotta sneak it in at a random time. So we were on a trip, and I had lined up. She thought the trip was the gift. It was a nice trip.
It was a good trip.
It was a week long, whatever. But during that whole time, I had lined up a work crew. My parents helped out. My kids helped out. I had bought all the furnishings and towel bars and finishings. Thank you. Hooks and lights and fixtures and fans and everything you got to get. Blinds, paint, brushes. Okay, I had been doing this for 6 months.
Whoa.
Okay, because there were supply chain issues, and I was not going to let that stop the plan. So I had a spreadsheet, I had a plan, I had documents, we had team meetings for weeks in advance, and I had the whole thing planned out. And so while we were away on a trip, relaxing, they were remodeling our master bathroom.
Whoa,
and
that's a surprise.
Not quite down to the studs, but flooring, furnishings, everything new.
And you got the master tile guy.
Oh, yeah, Steve Morgan.
He's the guy.
Little plug here. Right?
Plug out.
SteveMorgan.com.
Yeah, that's right.
I actually don't know if that's true.
We should start in one.
We better register that domain. Now, I made one fatal flaw. I forgot to turn off our security cameras because I didn't think she ever checked them. And at one point, she logged in, and I went, oh, no. And she said, why is Steve Morgan at our house?
And then you had
to
lie.
I'm in a panic mode. Yeah. I didn't.
No,
I'm in panic mode trying to think of a good lie.
Yeah.
And that's when, my brain failed me. Normally very reliable in this area, but my brain failed me at that moment. And she provided the greatest excuse. She said, oh, is he there to fix the kitchen faucet, which had been leaking? And I said, I was going to surprise you.
That is so cliche.
I did not lie. I said, I was going to surprise you. Is that a beautiful response?
It is.
I feel like it was a beautiful response.
It is.
And she said, oh, that was so nice, and I'm like, okay. So then I'm like texting my son Mike. I said, Mike, unplug the security cameras now.
Don't turn off, unplug.
No matter what I say in the group chat.
Yes.
Okay. Do not plug it back in and come up with some reasons why it's not working. So in the group chat, he was saying, Dad, the internet just went out. what do I do? And I'm telling them, giving them all these tech support things. And my wife's in that chat, so she's seeing all this. And we never could get the cameras to come back up the whole rest of the trip. What a weird thing.
What a weird thing.
So we got home really late, and I surprised her with the bathroom thing. And I would have never been able to pull that off. She would not have been impressed if I put that on credit cards.
No.
I had to save the money ahead of time and make all those purchases. And I needed money that she wouldn't notice was missing out of our paychecks and things. So, like, travel mileage reimbursements, usually come in a separate check or whatever. So you put that, you get cash, you put it in a little envelope, you forget about it. You get another $100, at Christmas, your grandma or somebody gives you $100, you put in an envelope and forget about it, right? So that's the kind of thing you got to have as a man. All right, Isaiah, you can put the women back into the live stream now.
Well, this is a good transition from 6 to 7, actually.
Oh, okay.
So 6 is diversify and gets you rich, right? So we worked through that one. And number 7 is money doesn't make you happy.
Yeah.
So do you think your wife was happy that you remodeled your bathroom?
Well, I'll tell you the reason she's happy now, which she didn't really care about in June, is that I put heated floors underneath the tile. She didn't notice that in June.
Yeah.
So it was
it's
kind
a game
of an
changer.
Unfolding surprise,
there
like when you walk in there and it's warm and you're going, what
It's a
is
game
this?
changer. When we moved to our house, our current house, we were like, oh, cool, it has heated floors. Didn't even understand
how life-changing
that was. You know where it's life-changing too, not just the bathroom, is the garage.
I'll have to think about that. Could I get the whole driveway? Because, we had to get up early today. All right, that seems like that would cost a lot of money to heat the driveway. That'll be like a phase 4. Okay. All right, so money doesn't make you happy at all.
Or make you happy.
The old, cartoon with Scrooge McDuck, swimming around in his money. But money gives you the ability to help people. I mean, there's been a couple examples recently of private wealth being used to help people. President Trump went and bought a bunch of water for the people in that Ohio town that was hit by the train derailment, and nobody from the government was doing any of that. FEMA had denied their claims and stuff, said, well, it wasn't a natural disaster, so we don't cover that. I'm like, what does it matter if it was a natural disaster or not, if my home just blew up in a train derailment?
I like the way that he explains what he means by this. Money solves problems. It'll give you independence, peace of mind, financial and location freedom. And I think that's he's right. It's not the end goal. Money is not the end goal, but some of the things that come with having some money certainly can provide.
Yeah.
But the key thing is happiness, not joy. And if we want to,
you can make a distinction.
We can make a distinction here. It can bring you some happiness.
Well, independence is a big deal.
It is.
A lot of people's stress in life comes from not having the ability to walk away from an ethical dilemma at work, from a vicious or toxic work relationship that you can't get away from because you have to have that job,
or from a bad investment.
Okay. I mean, the stress of not being able to pay off those credit cards. I mean, independence, financial independence. But the Christian believer, you got to hold your wealth in your hand. I mean, look at Job. The Bible tells us throughout. Proverbs is replete with examples that in ways you can't possibly defend against or predict, that wealth can be gone. So it doesn't ultimately is not your source of independence. It's not your source of peace of mind. Now, it can do a lot of good. And there aren't a whole lot of problems in the physical aspects of life that can't be solved with some money.
Right.
So it is the way the world works. But, Christian, be careful not to put your confidence in worldly money. That is not where your happiness or your joy, if you want to put it that way, really comes from. So I agree with that. It
comes with the verse where you put your heart. Where your heart is, that's where your values are going to be.
Well, is that what the verse says? It says, where your money is, there will your heart be also.
Right.
Where your treasure is, and more specifically. And I think that the verse is really not just talking about money, investments, but treasure. And there are some things that we reveal by where we put our treasure, about where our wealth is. We usually, all societies, all cultures, all times, they invest in their nuclear family, the success of their children. I've seen people sacrifice their own happiness for the sake of their children's happiness or success. And that's a very normal instinct. But for the believer, it's even more than that, in that you have eternal goals. You can take something temporal, make friends of worldly manna, unrighteous mammon, the New Testament calls it. And that's a very puzzling verse. Make friends to yourselves of unrighteous mammon. That's a real King James phrase there. You say, what in the world is that talking about? What it's saying is, use this temporal asset to do something of eternal value.
Benefit. That's
exercising good stewardship. That's what the believers will be judged for, is their stewardship, in the sense that they will be rewarded for good stewardship. And so, yes, you need money. It is necessary, but it is certainly not the path to happiness.
All right, so good pivot here. Number 8, number 8. You need money to make money. And what a plot. It's regularly in entertainment where someone will get denied from the bank. And they'll say, you have to have money to make money.
Not having money is a barrier to making money.
Right.
It is. There are so many things in this world that hold people in poverty.
Right.
One of them, ironically, is the social safety net.
Mm-hmm.
It holds people into poverty. I have talked to so many people who are in financial distress, who are offered jobs, opportunities to work, who turn them down and say, no, I can't afford to take that job. And you say, what do you mean? And they say, well, and they start to give you all the complications of life. I'm a single parent and I've got kids. I have to pay for childcare. If I get work, I can't afford it. I'm working 4 days a week just to pay for daycare. It doesn't make any sense. Okay. Then they tell you, well, I'm on food stamps and I'm on assistance and unemployment. And if I get a job, I'm going to lose my benefits. I'm going to lose my insurance, or I'm going to lose my, and so the social safety net, the thing that was meant to try and help tide people over between gigs, right? Unemployment is supposed to be temporary, tend to hold people down. Even things like our cash bail system, which people are trying to reform now in horrible ways, it does need to be reformed. Because, there's a $300 fine for vagrancy in the inner city of Milwaukee. Maybe somebody could think about that. A $300 cash fine for vagrancy, which is defined as not having any money and loitering about without anywhere to live.
It's compounding.
So how am I supposed to pay that? And there are systems that would say, well, you have to stay in jail until you can afford to pay your fine for vagrancy. So, there are some barriers. Poverty is a barrier to wealth in and of itself in a systemic way. But your wealth, we've already talked about, is more than just your money. And I think that's where you can say, what can I leverage in order to get out of this hole that I'm in? And I don't think that you have to have money to make money. Now, having money does help you make money. So it's a little bit of a two-sided coin.
Well, I think there's on the rise the ability, at least in America, for entrepreneurship to make people who didn't start from any kind of money all of a sudden have a very comfortable living because they have a skill.
Right.
But I think the key there is you have to work.
You've got to be diligent. Biblical. You've got to be willing to work. And sometimes work is learning.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And that preparation is still valuable for the future. But you know how you start a business? And this will drive me nuts. I got a friend that's starting a business. And well, good for them. And I looked into it, and I looked at their philosophy, and I said, this business is going to fail. And you could say, why? Because there's lots of businesses like this that succeed. I say, yeah, but this one's going to fail. Well, how could you know that? Just playing the odds, being a smart aleck? No, this one's going to fail because this person is starting a business because they're doing what they want to do. I've always wanted to have this. I've always wanted to do this. It's going to fail. You know why? Because you're not the source of the money for the sales. If you were, then sure. You could succeed.
Sure.
And that business would. What is the one question you have to ask in order to start a successful business? what do the people with money want to use it on?
Like, am I solving a problem?
What is the problem that I am solving for them so that they will give me their money?
And that's why, and
not what I want to do.
Good entrepreneurs and serial entrepreneurs are finding problems that have to be solved.
Like my uncle is an entrepreneur. You say, what? He's the wealthiest uncle I have. I got 4 uncles and my dad. My dad's the only one in the ministry, so he was, spoiler alert, not the wealthiest brother, okay? But the wealthiest brother, you say, what does he do? What is his job? He doesn't have a job. He owns businesses. What kind of business? Well, he got good at swimming pools, and he was working summers in college doing, helping install swimming pools, and so he bought out a business and leveraged buyout, bought the business, opened a pool store. Then he realized, the guys who bring us the pool salt have trucks, and so he bought a trucking company and saved himself on shipping. And then he realized that this salt that we use in the swimming pools is a lot like the road salt. We don't have a lot of swimming pools in the winter, but we got road salt needs, and so he's using his trucks and his salt connections to start another business. And then he was at the country club with his buddies around the table, and they said, hey, I bet you couldn't start a limousine business. And he said, I bet I can. And so he bought a limousine and started a limousine business. He said, what does a limousine business, a salt business, a trucking business, and a pool company have to do with each other? Nothing. It was stuff people needed, and a guy who was business-minded that could make it work.
And let's be honest, the vision to see what people need, that's a gift. It is a gift of God at times to be able to see the needs of others and learn how to solve them. And starting a business to solve them is a good thing instead of just giving stuff away.
There you go. Now we skipped one.
Yeah, we skipped one. We got to come back to number 4, okay? Because we're kind of passionate about this one a little bit. Number 4 lie is that you need a college degree to make money.
Yeah, he says there are people with $100,000 degrees.
Yep.
So they paid $100,000 for a college degree, which is not uncommon now.
Right.
4 years, maybe a grad degree too. Driving Uber and delivering food. Okay. Well, I think that's pejorative. Maybe they made that decision. They like driving Uber. I actually know there's a guy on YouTube that is a lawyer that drives. I think he's Lyft, but not Uber.
Sure.
But same deal. And he does videos, and he realized my passion isn't the law. I actually like explaining people the law and driving an Uber or a Lyft.
There you go.
So, and his breakout video was he had a guy in the back that got arrested out of his car, and so and the police didn't believe him that he was a lawyer until he showed them their bar card, and then they were like, "You're a lawyer driving Lyft, And he said, "Yeah, that's what I do." So I think that's maybe a little bit pejorative, but then he says there are college dropouts building multi-million-dollar businesses.
Right.
A degree is an old symbol of status. Skills and problem solving are the ticket now. Okay. Well, this is a little bit of what we call the myth of the wealthy welder. Okay. So I was talking to Dr. Alsop about this earlier in the week. It is true. This is true. But they are not the norm. They are the exception, not the rule. When you see people who say, well, they were the college dropout like the Bill Gateses or the Elon Musk or whatever it is, that you say, wow, they're a billionaire now. Right. Well, number one, you're not going to be a billionaire. Bad news, spoiler alert, you're not going to be a billionaire. I say that statistically speaking. All the potential billionaires, you can go off the stream now. All right. But everybody else, we're not going to be multi-million-dollar business owners in that big picture sense, right? Without the traditional path. So the wealthy welder, the irony is now you actually need a college degree to be a welder.
Yeah, right.
And you actually need to study science and math and take about 12 specific college classes to be a welder, a licensed welder in most states. And so the apprenticeship path is a much longer path to the welding credential. And the quickest and best way to get there is to go to college. And so at Maranatha, certainly I wouldn't say college is for everyone. It's not for you if you're going to come and have a bad attitude about it, for example, or if you're not into what we're about. But if you are and you feel like God's called you into something, then you ought to prepare for it. And if you're going to prepare for it, you ought to go someplace where people who know the path that you're going down and can guide you and mentor you along the way. And so I think that it is a bit of a myth and it's trying to use the exception to prove the rule.
Right.
And all the studies would indicate that although there might be a faster start out of high school because they're getting a job making $14 an hour, the average welder doesn't make $150,000 a year. The average welder, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, makes $41,000 a year.
Right.
And that's just $16,000 above the poverty line for a family of four.
Well, and I think the big thing too is we talk all the time to students who come in who have a trade in mind that eventually they want to get to, but their business degree will help them be a better asset to that company.
Or their Bible foundation. I mean, the Bible Institute here at Maranatha was designed for people that have that track in mind and say, listen, there's something developmental as well about the college years. There's something formative about that process in those college years. And so I think, this has been an interesting Twitter feed. I haven't agreed with everything the guy has to say. But
Started a good
I think
conversation.
It's been a good launching point to talk about some things, maybe understanding everything you read, don't take it at face value. Think about it critically. Do this process of back and forth. Apply some biblical principles that you've learned along the way, and take from it what is valuable.
Right. Find someone who you can talk to about it and who's not going to judge you for asking questions.
Yeah.
Because asking questions is the fastest way of actually getting some decisions made in a legitimate way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a good time. Great thread. You guys ought to on this video give us some threads that we could do this for. If you have good conversations that we could come back for other side missions, we would love to sit around and have a great time. Yeah,
we'll have them on too and make a guest.
Yeah, there we go.
This is a side mission. All right, thanks for joining us. Have a great day.